Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to the 1916 Company. This is How To, our special feature where we wind our way through the world of watches. Today, how to understand a COSC Swiss chronometer. So first, let's lay down some parameters. The COSC is a Swiss institution, and although it's underpinned by the ISO 3159 standard, your watch must be built and certified in Switzerland, or at least the movement must be certified in Switzerland to get the COSC certification. Another important fact is that today we're going to break it down a little bit. While the COSC offers two different categories of certification for mechanical movements and one for quartz, we're going to stick with what's called Category 1, or movements that are larger than 20 millimeters. That includes almost every mechanical watch purchased by a luxury audience in the men's watch segment. Now, let's also be very clear about what a chronometer is and isn't. You see this right here? This is my Omega Seamaster. This is an entire watch. It is not a chronometer. The movement inside is the certified chronometer, as the COSC only tests a mechanical movement. Think of it like Big Ben. You've got the Elizabeth Tower, which most people call Big Ben. You've got the Great Clock of Westminster, which some people mistake for Big Ben. And then you've got the bell inside the clock, which is quite literally named Big Ben. So the movement by itself is what's tested by the COSC. It's important to note that the COSC test often includes only the movement, not the winding gear, and sometimes not complications or additional mechanisms like the date, which is why it's very important to distinguish between the COSC test, which includes just the bare movement, and something like the Besançon Observatory chronometer test, which is also underpinned by the ISO 3159, but includes the fully assembled watch. Okay. Having worked through that, we're talking about Category 1 mechanical chronometers, movements made in Switzerland. Let's talk about the COSC itself. Starting in the late 19th century, chronometer certifications in Switzerland were, by and large, performed by regional official bureaus. Due to irregularities in scheduling and standards and the disparate nature of this system, in the early 1970s, 5 watchmaking cantons, Bern, Solothurn, Geneva, Neuchâtel, and Vaud, got together to create the COSC, Contrôle Officiel Suisse des Chronomètres. So since 1973, this nonprofit foundation has been the official certifying agency for Swiss chronometers. And by convention in Switzerland, almost every watch that has chronomètre written on it anywhere will have been through the COSC. While there are some breaks, such as the F. Pigeon Chronomètre Bleu, which is not certified, for the most part, that is the standard. Now, the COSC has 3 labs. Each one is a technological marvel, featuring things you would expect to see in microchip manufacturing or even nuclear submarines. For example, the labs feature rafting, something you'll find in nuclear submarines to reduce sound emissions. This is to reduce vibration from the exterior or even the footsteps of the employees so that the machines conducting the test are not interfered with. You'll also find clean room conditions, including air filters and airlocks. Finally, they have 3 clocks, including GPS synchronization and synchronization with the DCF-77, which is a radio clock out of the Frankfurt metropolitan area in Germany. In other words, it's pretty exacting. Now let's talk about the test itself. I think when everyone thinks about the COSC, they imagine, well, -4 + 6. But what does that really mean? The test, which has been fairly consistent for decades, now we're talking about Category 1 mechanical movements here, it includes 360 hours of testing, which comes out to 15 days. Now during those 15 days, 5 positions are tested, some more than once, along with 3 temperatures, and there are some parameters that need to be adhered to. First, daily variation. That 24-hour span in a given day is where the -4 + 6 second tolerance comes from. But there's also mean variation across all of the days, which has to be no worse than 2 seconds. Because I mentioned that some positions are tested more than once or for more than 1 day, a watch cannot vary by more than 5 seconds in the same position over a multi-day span. But wait, there's more. It's important to remember that The variation for a single day from the mean, that is the variation of one day from the average for the entirety, cannot be more than 10 seconds. And it gets even more exacting still. There is the temperature test. Now you're going to realize when I tell you that temperature variation can be no more than plus or minus 0.6 second, that position has a much bigger impact on timing than temperature does. Still, it's critical because we are talking about a chronometer movement. Now, the most idiosyncratic test within the testing battery is probably the test that compares crown left and dial up, or as they call it in COSC terms, vertical and horizontal position. Here, the variation can be no worse than minus 6 seconds plus 8. And remember, this is within the scope of the test, so all of the other terms have to continue to be met in addition to this one. Finally, there is a sort of sustained test whereby the timing at the beginning and the timing at the end are compared to ensure that the watch is stable over the entire 15-day span, and that is sometimes called the resumption rate. All of these tests together allow a movement to be dubbed chronometer. Now, only the brand that certified the movement can request the full certificate. And it's important to note that the certification is only performed once. So when the watch goes back for service, it may be timed to chronometer specifications by the workshop that services it, but it will not go back to the COSC. And only the brand can request the certification. So if you want the full-length certificate, you don't ask the COSC, you ask the manufacturer of the watch. Also important to note, COSC chronometers are fairly rare, but they appear to be gaining in popularity. According to the COSC itself, which has not broken out brand by brand certifications since 2016, the number of chronometers certified in 2023, the most recent year for which we have figures, was approximately 2,416,575, a substantial increase over the previous year, all of which is to say approximately 15% of Swiss watches exported are going to be COSC certified Swiss chronometers, and the tolerances are extraordinary. Right here we have a Chopard Alpine Eagle. Now this is the Pine Green edition that came out in late 2022. Of course, the model itself launched in 2019, which was fairly late to the integrated bracelet sports watch game. If you're late to the game, you need to bring a new trick. And so unlike any Royal Oak or Nautilus, Chopard introduced its watch with a COSC Swiss chronometer certification. It is a manufacturer movement. It's tested in the 5 standard positions of the COSC, and of course at temperature. Just remember that though it says chronometer on the dial, chronometer, properly speaking, is the movement inside. Now here's a watch that blends elements of past and present. This is the Ulysse Nardin Marine Diver, but it incorporates some of the design traits such as individual numbering plates on the flank, the specific shape of the case, the dimples, the dial, and the arrangement of small seconds and the power reserve indicator to look like a deck chronometer or a navigation clock of the type that used to be considered a chronometer for navigation purposes. That's what made Ulysse Nardin famous in the 19th century. So not only does this watch have a movement that is a certified COSC Swiss chronometer, it also has a design that references the historic marine chronometers of antiquity. This is a watch that actually was not debuted as a chronometer when it came out in 1993. It's my own private Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter, the one that Pierce Brosnan wore back in GoldenEye in '95, that was the quartz model, not a chronometer. This one is the mechanical chronometer, and inside you've got an Omega Caliber 1120, which is a 2892 A2 that's been upgraded with 2 extra jewels, a little bit of extra power reserve, a chronometer certification, and some decoration. But this is a chronometer movement in a dive watch, and that's what these two have in common. What's really different here is, unlike my Omega, the Globemaster is a master chronometer, which means it's double certification. Everything in the ISO 3159, everything in the COSC, this movement has been tested to it, met it, and surpassed it. So you have the COSC, but you've also got master chronometer certification. Remember what I said about movements being certified in isolation? That's not the case with the METAS or Master Chronometer Standard. This watch would have been tested for chronometry in 6 positions, not 5. as a fully assembled watch, not as a bare movement, and with the date complication as well as the full winding system intact. It also goes through tests for water resistance, power reserve, winding efficiency, overall durability, and anti-magnetism. So that is what the METAS test encompasses. Unless you think Omega is the fox guarding the henhouse with its own in-house standard, it's an open standard, and Tudor has begun to certify watches master chronometers. So all of these are COSC Swiss chronometer movements, but this is the watch that can be described as a chronometer as a fully assembled timepiece. So consider where that leaves chronometers today. 300 years ago, a chronometer suitable for navigation at sea, where 4 seconds of deviation is 1 mile off course, you would have needed someone of extraordinary historical talents, Pierre Leroy, a Thomas Mudge, a John Harrison, a Thomas Earnshaw, someone of historical acuity and aptitude. But today you can get one for just over $1,000 from Mosso, which is one of the largest certifiers of chronometer wristwatches. The future of the chronometer is bright, and that is how you understand a mechanical COSC certified Swiss chronometer.